Hey folks, this is Gray here, and today we're going to be looking at the Energizer PPS2000 watt portable power station. How many of you folks remember that little bunny, hitting the drums and whatnot, bouncing around your screen? That was the kind of like, it's been a, long time. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. Anyways, moving on. So this video is going to break down into several different sections, and I will add chapters for you folks that come across the video and only looking for something specific. So this is how we're going to break down this video. First, we're going to look at specifications. Then we're going to move on to number 2, which will be what's in the box, what you get when you purchase this unit, like the unit and what cords you get. 3, we're going to take a close-up view of this unit, the ports and all that fun stuff like that. 4, we're going to do some testing, and for the testing, we're going to use 3 units or 3 appliances that I think that people would use on a consistent basis for an emergency. 1 is going to be a portable AC unit. 2nd is going to be a portable ceramic heater, and 3rd is going to be a hot plate, because you either want to stay cool or hot, you want to cook something, and so on and so forth. And if it can, if this unit can power those specific appliances that I'm talking about, then it should be able to power things like your refrigerator, your deep freezer, and things like that. These are high drain electronics, and if it can handle that, it can handle some of your other electronics like your refrigerators, your full-size refrigerators, and whatnot. Also, we're going to be looking at the pros and cons, and then at the end of that, I will add my question to you, my viewers. Now, I've been looking at this thing for quite some time, and I have to say there's some great things about it that I love, and there's a few things that I hate, so stay tuned to the end for that. Let's take a look at the specifications of the Energizer PPS2000 watt portable power supply. It is powered by a lithium iron phosphate battery, which is always a plus. It has a wide voltage range from 10 to 145 volts. It supports up to 900 watts in solar power, which is, to me, very, very good. The thing that stands out to me in this device is the LCD screen. It's an interactive touchscreen LCD screen. It has a lot of information on there and whatnot, as you can kind of push buttons and kind of get information that you can use. And to me, that could be a pro and a con, but we're going to look at that towards the end and what my thoughts are on that. All right, so let's kind of look at the watt hours. It's 2,150 watt hours. Not too bad for a 2,000 watt portable power station. This one kind of, it can go either way with me. It has 2,000 life cycles. And of course, as I explained in the past, life cycles basically mean if the unit is fully charged and you discharge the unit all the way down to 0% and then charge it back up, that is 1 cycle. Once you do that, you're using up to about, once you hit the 2,000 life cycles, you're about 80% down efficiency. And what I mean by that is, let's say the battery is, here's the size of the battery and you've used that 20% and now you have this 80% of the battery left. So it doesn't, like a lot of people get it mixed up where like you mean only 2,000 cycles. Well, then what happens after that? Well, it's still feasible to use the device. It doesn't mean it's dead. It means it's just used 20% of its capacity and you still have 80% to go, which is a lot. Another impressive feature about the Energizer PPS2000 is it has a 30 amp DC output. And I haven't seen one of those on any of the devices or any of the portable power stations that I reviewed. Now, with this 30 amp DC output on it, and I'll show you where you can use that at, this is something that people can use for RV, in the RV community, overlanding. It can run, some of the water pumps and stuff like that because it has 30 amps. So that's a heavy draw, and it can handle that. So I thought that was very interesting that it has that built into it. So that's definitely a big, huge thing for me in regards to I'm trying to build my own overlanding vehicle, and hopefully I'll get to do that on the channel down the road here somewhat. And some people may ask, it's a 2100 watt pure sine wave inverter for the AC inverter. And of course, pure sine wave means that if you have any touchy electronics like your laptops or things that have a little bit more of electronics in there, it's going to be safe to use on those devices. I mean, you can add 900 watts of solar to this unit. So that's always a plus. The more solar that you can add to it, because a lot of us, let's say we have a generator and fuel is, at a premium at this point. So the more that you can use the sun, or as I call it, free energy, the less that we have to use our fuel. Because, you can plug this thing up and charge it via the AC outlet on your generator and charge the unit. But, who would rather, would you rather spend fuel or would you rather use the sun? So depending on how many panels you have and what type of panels that you have, that could be a benefit to you. One big thing that I really liked about this is when it comes to the solar panels, to add to that whole 900 watt situation, is it's intelligent in the aspect of, let's say you have a 12 volt solar panel or a 24 volt or so on and so forth. Some portable power stations out there don't have the capability without actually going into the settings and changing that thing around so that it can accept that. With the intelligent sensor built into this unit, you can add whatever type of solar panel that you have set up in your home, or whatever that you want to use specifically, and that the unit itself will figure out what that is and then make that power efficient into the unit without actually, changing in additional settings or whatnot. Some people have asked me in the past, what does this thing weigh? And I made sure that I didn't get this thing wrong. So this thing weighs, man, I'm going to be honest with you, 66 pounds.
Woo, that's heavy.
Yeah, wow. It's big and heavy, but that's lithium iron phosphate. The more power that they can, produce, the 2,000 watts and higher, definitely have a lot more weight to them. Now, 66 pounds. So this is not for the faint of heart. Luckily, this thing has handles on the side that you can use to kind of lug this thing around. But if you're someone in the more older range and a little bit more, incapacitated where you can't lug something like that around, this may or may not be the unit for you, depending on your situation. All right, so that's the end of me rambling. So let's give me a round of applause, please. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and move on to the next section, is what do you get in the box? See there is a lot of different plugs that this unit comes with, which to me is very awesome. You don't have to buy a bunch of additional plugs. All right, the first thing you're going to get is your solar charging cable, which is an XT90 to an MC4. These are your MC4. This is your XTC90 connection right here that you can see there. So that's one of the plugs that you get. The next plug that you're going to get is an aviation plug to an XT60 output. This is your XT60 and this is your aviation plug here. After that, you're going to get your XT60 to Anderson plug there. So you have your XT60 and your Anderson connection there. After that, you're going to get your Type-C to Type-C output cable right there. All right, and then after that, you're going to get a XT90, which is bigger than an XT60. I mean, you can see the difference there. This is your XT60 here. This is your XT90 with your aviation plug. And you're going to get your car charging cable as well with an XT90 on the outside of this as well. So you have car charger or cigarette adapter, however you want to look at this thing here, to an XT90 plug. Last but not least, this beast. This is your AC adapter, and as you can see, it has a fan on there and whatnot. This thing is a beast. It's pretty huge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Magpul. I'll give you an idea of how that looks, the size of this thing here, to something to that extent. But it's pretty big. And like I said, to me that was kind of a huge. This is really big. Why? The fan is noisy enough to where it drives me a little bit nuts, but that's just my personal perspective on this. Outside of that, you also get the unit itself, but let's go ahead and get a close-up look at the unit now. Let's take a quick look at the front of the Energizer PPS2000 watt. Easy enough, nice visible power button, which is nice on a unit like this. You're going to push that button on, it's going to turn the unit on, that light's going to turn green. Of course, it's going to initialize because it has the unit in there, and then the really cool screen comes on. Now, before we get to that, I want to kind of focus on, we'll look at the DC and the AC inputs, and then we'll also, let's see if I can spin this around. We'll look at those two inputs down here. These are your inputs for power. These are both inputs here. Here's your aviation. And of course, you have a DC, I think, barrel plug that you would use there, but we'll get a closer look at that in a second. All right, so let's kind of look at the front of this thing, and then we'll dive into the screen real quick. Like I said, lots of different options on here, but let's focus up here first. So here we go with your, and what I really like about the unit, it does have covers for all the plugs. It's not waterproof or anything like that, which funny enough, there's a unit out there that hopefully I'll get my hands on and get to review that product. But it has nice covers on there for dust and debris and stuff like that, so it doesn't get into anything like that. So let me flip this one up here. This is, so in order to activate this, you're gonna go over here to DC, push that button and hit on. And that's gonna turn on this section. There's no buttons on here. So like I said, that can be a pro or con for some folks, but we'll discuss that in the pro and con section. Anyway, so let's lift up this flap here and see what you get. And right there, you're gonna get two USB-A 5-volt 3-amp outputs there on that one. On here, you're gonna get two USB-A 18-watt by 2s. So this is more if you're faster charging on there versus this one up here. And then down here, you're going to get your Type C output, which is 100 watts, which is nice. But I felt that they could probably put an additional one there. It'd be nice if they had like two 100 watt Type C outputs on there, just because of the size of this unit. Personally, I think it should have two. And of course, here's your output for your DC 12 volt 10 amp output for anything that runs off, like let's say if you have a CB radio or anything like that that would run off this adapter here, but that's your output there. And then last but not least, you're going to have two, I think they're 5521 barrel connector outputs there, also for DC components and whatnot. We're going to look at the AC output section here. And folks, I'm just going to make a quick statement. In the process of making this video, I literally just had a power outage here at the home, just because here in Florida there's a heat index of 104 today. And I don't know, everything just went, all my power stations went beep. That's in here and throughout the house. And of course, my daughter comes in and says, hey, something's going on. But luckily, we have a unit like this powering most of the things in the house. It was a very short-lived power outage, but I'm telling you folks, when it gets that hot, everybody has their ACs running, things get a little hairy sometimes. So you can see how just outside of just SHTF, how something like this could happen. Anyways, on to the review. As you can see here, this is an AC output of 100 to 110 volts AC, 2000 watts, and 2100 watts here at 110 to 120 volts AC. Anyways, you get 6 AC outlets. Again, they all have covers on them. This is really nice. I can undo all of them, but you can kind of see that they're all AC outlets. Now, again, I love it when they do this with the grounding plug here, this whole format here, because some of them don't. They just have just the top two plugs, even without that there. So it kind of looks like, I don't know if I can do this or not, but it kind of looks like that, just a standard plug-in. I love the fact that they did this on their unit here. All right. And last but not least, let's talk about the plugs on the side, your inputs real quick, and then we'll move on to the screen, and then we'll get into testing. Oh, whoops. Matter of fact, let's kind of really quick talk about this here. You can see here, this is a DC 12 volt 30 amp, folks. This connects to your aviator plug for your output here. And if you have an RV, you're probably familiar with an output like this. If you're, like I said, one of those overlanders or whatnot, you guys know how important this is here, this 30 amps, this 12 volt output 30 amp with the aviator plug. Very, very nice to have that on a unit like this. I haven't seen one yet that I've reviewed with the plug like that on there, so I thought that was nice to have that on here as well. All right, so here's your two inputs, right? And this is your DC port, 10 to 145 volts DC, 15 amps. This, like I said, this is where you would plug in your solar panels with that aviator plug that I showed you what you get in the box. And again, like I said, it's nice that it has this range on volts. Very nice to have this on here. Like I said, you can put 900 watts of solar in a unit like this. Very happy to see that on a unit like this. So that's good for faster charging and, you know, expandability on the solar panel aspect. And then of course you have your adapter input here. Kind of gives you the breakdown there. And it's just a standard barrel connector that you would see here. What we're going to do is going to take a look at this touch screen here. And it's like I said, this is a very informative touchscreen, one of the best that I've seen. Just screen in general, it's very easy to read. It doesn't really flicker much. It gives you all your information, your dates and time. And if you do have an issue where something pops on here, you can go to this alarm section here, and it's going to give you what alarms pop on there. And if we end up popping one of the alarms, I'll show you that when we go into the testing phase. And then of course after that you can clear those and hit yes, and it'll back out of that. Now, to turn on your AC section, it's as simple as just pushing that button. It's going to ask you yes, and then that's going to come on and let you know what the load is right there. Now, if you have something plugged in the AC section, you can tap that, and it's give you all this information, your output power, your output voltage, and your frequency. Now, here in the United States, we want to be at 60 hertz. I know other places use 50 hertz, but here in the US, most of the time you're going to see 60 hertz on there. So I want to back that up, and then the same thing when you have power going to the grid, it tells your input voltage and your input power. I love the fact that it has a lot of this information on here. And like I said, it's pretty easy to use. This is going to be your PV in your car inputs. And again, you can just back up from there. And then of course your DC load as well. And as you can see, it has lots of information. Your 12 volt, your 10 amp, your 12 volt, your 30 amp, USB, PD, wireless, and output power. Wireless is going to be on top. And I'll show you a clip real quick of the 2 wireless pads on top of the unit real fast. As you can see there, it has 2 of those wireless charging pads for phones or anything that has that capability or whatnot. All right, so let's go back on this here, hit that back button here, and now you can also go into your settings. You can set it for either English, your output voltage here, and of course you're going to change anything. You can change that around as well, as long as you know what you're doing. And then of course your AC output frequency, 50 or 60 hertz, and then your DC. So when you go into others, let me try to click that there, as that's if you're going to use, let's say, your car adapter or anything outside of normal DC standardization. And what I mean by that is because PV is going to be for your solar panels. So when you're running solar panels for an input source, you want to hit this on PV. So if you have one of these and you ever have any issues, you want to make sure that it's on PV for your DC input force. If you're using, let's say, your car adapter or whatnot, and of course you want to make sure that your car is running so you don't kill your battery and get stuck on the side of the road somewhere or stuck at some campgrounds, but you want to have that on others. All right, so moving on to the next. Now the little beeping sound, I can turn that off via right here. I can turn that off. You can turn your eco mode on and off here as well. Kind of gives you an idea. All AC outputs will be cut off if there is no AC loads, and it kind of gives you a little bit of information. So you can see that if you have it on eco mode. The buzzer sound, I'm sorry, that's going to be for like if there's an issue. And of course the touch sound is what I have on right now, that little beeping sound you may have. And of course you can adjust your backlighting to whatever you find use. If you want to conserve power, you can keep it more on the low end or whatnot. But for this view, I have it set here. All right, moving on to the next screen. This is how, if you want the unit to go to sleep, and if you're using it for something, let's say that you have plugged in that you don't want the unit to turn off, you might want to set that there. You can set your date and your time. All right, so that kind of goes over the screen. Let's get into testing, folks. All right, so we had the unit not plugged in. As you can see, we have 0 across the board with everything. The battery's at 93% there. And I think what we're going to do first is go over the AC unit. Because I've had a lot of units fail just with running this by itself. And then we'll try the heater and the hot plate. And as we've seen in the past, a lot of this with the amperage draw and whatnot, most units can't handle a combination of the two. But at least it'll give us an idea if we set this thing to failure, what will happen. And my apologies, I got the Jenny because I was doing some maintenance on it because we are in hurricane season. So I had to do all my maintenance on my generator to make sure everything is functioning with that, and top off the fuel and make sure everything looks good on that. Anyways, back to what we're doing. Let's get this plugged in to the unit and see how it does. Now that I have the unit on there and I have the AC plugged in, I'm going to go ahead and turn the AC on and we're going to watch that. And I'm probably going to switch screens here. So we're there at 159, 154. It's easier going to be able to easily see what's going on before the compressor kicks on this unit. On that screen there, we can see the output voltage and the output power. And we should be able to see the surge from this aspect right here. So what we're going to do is wait for that surge to hit and see if the unit can handle it. All right, there goes the surge, folks. Up to 1,000 watts. The AC is now blowing cold air with the compressor kicked on. We're at 1,200 watts and climbing. So far the unit is doing pretty good. That's always a good thing to see. We haven't had no issues, no error codes, no nothing. We're climbing still up, we're dropping down. So the surge with the compressor on is around 1,200. Trying to see if it goes any higher than the 1,200, almost 1,300 watts. And real quick, while we're testing the AC unit, I wanted to test the uninterruptible power supply in this unit. Basically, currently it's plugged in to the grid and running the AC unit. And something that's pulling that much power, I want to see what happens when I unplug it from the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug this from the wall. You guys keep an eye on the screen. All right, here goes nothing. And we're unplugging. Not bad at all. It didn't even hiccup. It didn't even make a sound. That's great. I'm very satisfied that the unit is actually running the AC without any issues. All right, so I think we've had a successful test with the AC unit. Let's kind of move on to the heater unit next. So let me go ahead and put the heater on low and see what we get then. 317, 530. We're almost up to 900 watts. And then we're dropping down. I'm going to turn the heater up to max now. So make sure you keep an eye on that. We're at 780 with the heater, and now I'm going to turn the heater on high and on max to see if we have any error codes. Here goes nothing. All right, we're at almost 1200, 1300 watts. 1359, 1336. Now it's dropping back down. This is great, folks. This is great to see that the unit is not shooting any error codes or nothing. All right, so let's shut off this heater before I sweat to death and move on to the hot plate. So for the last test, folks, we're going to go ahead and use this. It's seen better days. Now that I'm looking at it on camera, it's seen better days. But it's a dual hot plate, and with two surfaces and whatnot, you can go from low to high on these things. We'll start with one, and then we'll move to the next. And we'll see how the unit does. Go ahead and turn on the hot plate, one side of it on low, and see what we get. All right, so we're already up to, what, 572, 573. Go ahead and turn on the other side of the hot plate, and we'll see that spike real quick. All right, we're at 1100, 1300, 1400. I'm going to go ahead and max out this to high as well. And this looks like it's settling down at 1400. A little over 1400 watts. All right, folks, so that kind of brings us to the pros and cons of this video of the Energizer PPS2000 watt portable power station. And like I said, there's some things that I really liked about the unit and some things that I really didn't like about the unit. And I feel that if Energizer or other folks out there watching this video, maybe they can make some of these changes down the road. And I want to let everybody know, just because I do a review on a product doesn't mean you have to run out and buy the product. This is just me giving you a review, an idea of what's out there and what some of the offerings that these companies have to offer in the portable power station space. All right, moving on to the pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. All right, so here are my list that I have for pros, because I wrote these down just to make sure that I can touch on them and make sure I don't forget about them. One of the biggest pros was that 30 amp DC output. The thing was the 900 watt solar input. A lot of units only offer, let's say 100 to 200 watt input, and then you're kind of limited on how fast you can charge the unit. The thing that I have as a pro is that it has so many adapters. And what I like about that is a lot of other companies will offer you one or two plugs, and then you got to buy all these other additional plugs, which can of course start to get that price going cha-ching, 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 cha-ching as you start buying all these adapter plugs. Now let's get into the cons, right? Everybody wants to know the cons because, it's just with any unit, there's always going to be pros and cons. No matter how great they seem, if you're going to spend your hard-earned dollars on something like this, you need to know the pros and cons. And specifically the cons, because this is how you decide if it's going to be working for you. Here's what I feel are cons in this device. 66 pounds. Now for me, not a problem, but for others that may be a problem. The other thing is if someone doesn't purchase the unit prior to this deal, and the deal is, right now, I think, what is it? I think I have it written down here. Let's go. Yeah, from June 12th to July 15th, the unit is retailing for $999. That's before taxes and shipping and all that stuff like that. And I'll have a link down below for that. So if you wait till afterwards, you're looking anywhere from 80 to 85 cents for a watt hour, and that can be very costly for some of you folks out there if you don't happen to purchase a thing. But what I always say is wait for deals. If you know anybody that has an affiliate link or any type of discount codes and you want something like this, help that content creator out, be it me, myself, or anybody else on the YouTube platform that has the best deal, check for that out. Now, the other thing that bothered me is with technology the way it is, and I'm happy that companies like Blue Yeti and some of the other companies like EcoFlow and some of the other companies like that have all got away from the power bricks. The power bricks are very large and they make a lot of noise. For instance, my EB3A from my Blue Yeti has a power brick hooked up to it, and it's just very loud in my office. It's just I don't know, and maybe I'm nitpicking, you know what I mean? Because some people are like, well, you know, it's not a deal breaker. It still powers the unit and whatnot. But yeah, I get it. It's just one of those things that I'm like, all right, I hear the thing running and running and running, and it never quiets down. Anyways, that's just like me. Now, the touchscreen. Here, and this is why could be a con or a pro. The pro of the touchscreen is it's very informative. It gives you lots of information. But here's my biggest concern. If the touchscreen ever goes out, how would you control the unit? So I wish there was some sort of tactile buttons, you know, just like most of the buttons that you can push to turn on, let's say your AC section, your DC section, and so on and so forth. Having buttons as a redundancy in case the screen ever goes out, that could be an issue moving down the road. And then the last thing is depending on your situation, is 2,000 watts going to be suffice for you? And for most people who are using this for small electronics, lights, let's say you're going to put a coffee maker on there, a toaster, a heater, or something like that, and you're only going to be using this for short periods of time, great. But my biggest thing with a lot of the power stations these days is expandability. Expandability is a huge thing for me, where I can add additional batteries. There's some other companies out there where you can add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 different batteries to use this something as a whole home space. Now, there's a caveat to that, and I learned that from, of course, Rudy the Alaska Prepper, who does a great job with the technology on these portable power stations, is that you're still limited to 2,000 watts. So having the extra batteries, as long as you're not powering something beyond its capacity, so let's say if you're running your refrigerator and your refrigerator has a draw of, let's say, 150, 200 watts on a consistent basis, and then it peaks out, maybe see 300 or 400 watts when the compressor kicks on, which usually doesn't last too long, but they don't run smoothly. And having that additional resources for those batteries so that you can run it for more watt hours, to me, that plays a role for what you're looking for. So if you're looking for something just to have 2,000 watts and you're going to be using this just for emergencies or certain situations like that, it's a wonderful unit. It's very intuitive, the technology that's went into it, but if you're looking for expandability, then you might want to look somewhere else in regards to the type of unit that you're looking for. And additional batteries do have a cost to them. They can be very expensive on some companies, and they can be very cost effective at other companies, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. So those are kind of some of the pros and cons of the device, and here's my question to you. What are your thoughts on the Energizer PPS2000? And the reason I like to ask these questions is because a lot of these companies will read the comments and kind of gauge some of your guys' opinions and look at it, so when they make the next generation of this unit, they will decide, okay, well, maybe we should remove this or add that, maybe we should upgrade this, and so on and so forth. So dropping your comments and saying, you know, what would you use this for? Do you think it's a great device? What are your pros and cons? You know, anything that comes to mind in regards to a unit like this. It kind of not only what I'm saying in my point of view, but it also at least includes your voice and your point of view to not only myself and the company, but to others that come across this video. Other than that, folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. I try to add a few little things in here to make it a little bit more fun. It's hard, you know, when you're doing a technical video on a portable power station, but hey, you know, I'm going to try to get more interactive and try to make it a little bit more funner going down the road. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you hated it, you know what to do then. And if you're new here, please subscribe and check out the rest of the channel and what we have to offer. And maybe if you get a chance, join us on one of the live streams. That's always fun as well. All right, folks, remember, you are not alone. This is GreyMan. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the rebound, and God bless.